Hi, this is Sean. I hope you're doing well. This one is going to be for those of you who are struggling to get your first few tunes down. We could have called this video a few things. It could have been called struggling to learn your first 5 tunes. It could be called why you still can't improvise. It could be called why are you still having to look at the sheet music to play jazz standards you've been playing for more than a month. It could have been called all those things. So if you're not struggling in any way and you can play more than 10 standards and you can improvise freely and you're getting what you want, maybe this one isn't for you. If you're normal, stick around, we'll talk. So what I'd like to speak to you about is not based on ideas in books or in my head. It's because I've taught 38,000 plus one-to-one jazz piano lessons, recorded hundreds of tutorials for my members and students. But really it's that one-to-one work that's shown me patterns of how people think they're going to learn it, how they've been approaching it, and why they keep hitting against that same brick wall, and more importantly, what do we do about it? I'm sure if you're here, you're familiar with these sorts of problems. So first of all, let's talk about what is there to learn from and why that causes a problem. The vast majority of things you're going to watch, say on YouTube for example, I would say a lot of those are based on things like Rootless, voicings, all this sort of stuff, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, but these are stylistic things. These are not foundational things. So the amount of time that somebody comes to me and they've been trying to learn jazz and they talk to me about, yeah, I can play the Rootless voicings and I know that you put the 9th here and the 13th there, but if I ask them to play the basic chord that they're trying to play a Rootless voicing of, they're stuck. So for example, this happened to me just yesterday when somebody's been watching these sorts of videos, is trying to learn but has no freedom. And I said, play me chords 1 to 7 in the key of B flat, and he couldn't do it. That doesn't make sense. So first of all, knowing that this is the C major scale, and therefore this is chord number 1, this is chord number 2, chord number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, people tend to separate that as knowledge, and yeah, that makes sense and I can figure it out if I need to, but they can't say C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G 7, A minor 7, B minor 7, flat 5, and then take that to say B flat and say B flat major 7, C minor 7, D minor 7, E flat major 7, F7, G minor 7, A minor 7, flat 5. Could have probably done that a little bit quicker. But anyway, the point I'm making is these shouldn't be things you know about, but you can't just grab in a flash. For example, what happens when you're playing a tune in the key of B flat? I had somebody, actually let's talk E flat. Somebody came to me the other day and said, I want to play Misty. I've been trying to play Misty, but I'm finding bits of it hard. So Misty's in E flat. Starts on chord number 1 in E flat. Then it plays 2-5 to the 4. Now, if that's a foreign language to you at the moment, don't worry about it. It is to a lot of people. But these are basics of jazz standards. Now, this guy couldn't play chords 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the key of E flat comfortably. Could figure it out if I gave him 3 or 4 minutes. But that's not going to inform his playing as the music goes past. So how is he possibly going to free up and improvise? At best, he's going to be able to play the tune exactly the same way every single time if he gets to that level, and if he can memorize enough that he hasn't forgotten the last 3 tunes that he's tried to learn. That's probably happened to many of you. I know it will have happened to many of you. That happens because he's using one of 2 things to play. Either he's reading or he's remembering. He has no other mechanisms. It's either reading what's in front of him or it's memorizing where his hands go. This goes here, this goes there, then I go here, 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 then I know I drop these 2 and that gives me an inversion. This is memory stuff, and then the same guy will come and pull my coat a few months down the line about, can you show me how to improvise? Well, yeah, but everything that you're doing is based on just your memory of where your fingers go. So if I say to you, play me 2-5-1 in A flat, which you just did, and you don't know you played 2-5-1 in A flat, and if I say to you A flat major 7 once you've already played Misty for 3 months and you have to think of A flat major 7, that means you just remembered where your hands go, right? So of course you can't have any freedom to improvise on that. Somebody asked me the other day, what are you thinking when you improvise? I've asked so many teachers that question, and they all say I'm thinking about nothing. Yeah, to a certain extent, there's truth in that. If I had to analyze it further, I might say I'm processing the chord progressions as they go past, and somewhere in my brain, somebody's saying, okay, what have you got for a B flat minor 7 to E flat 7? Which scales do you have? And so if you don't even know that that's 2-5 to A flat, you don't know that you just play B flat minor 7 to E flat 7, you're having to think to find those chords, then of course that freedom part can't take place. So how you work, not just the material, but how you work is everything. This also brings me to another point, which is picking all the wrong tunes. It's so easy to say, I want to play Misty. I like Round Midnight. Round Midnight, for me, I think is a tough tune. I don't think it's an easy tune at all. It's a lovely tune. It's not an easy tune. I get people who've played less than a year, can't play 5 jazz standards, talking about, could we do Round Midnight? Yeah. Start out by picking tunes that are more simple, where the progressions are easy to manage, and use tunes. This is the fundamental thing. If you take one thing away from this lesson, this chat, it would be that use the tunes to learn progressions. Don't learn tunes and then look at them and go, oh, well, what is in that? What progressions are in there? Not that way around. Use the tune to learn the progressions, and then you get more freedom. And then you're also going to see, okay, Autumn Leaves in C goes 2-5 to 1. Okay, so does, I don't know, let's find another one. Satin Dolls starts with a 2-5. It doesn't matter if it's in the key of F, which it isn't. It still starts on a 2-5. My point being that the more you learn the progressions, the more the tunes look the same. They don't look different. There are a limited amount of common chord progressions in jazz standards, and they come up in every single jazz standard. And the reason I finally got this together was because I was accompanying singers workshops for Barry Harris, and he caught me good and proper because he gave me the chord changes to a tune I'd never heard before and wanted it in 8 keys for the singers within the next few minutes. And I felt like I had 10 thumbs. So I started to study what I thought I already knew and these progressions that I now teach my students. And in doing that, I found that if you focus on the jazz standards, you can actually justify virtually 100% of what's going on in these tunes. That becomes exciting because now you've got principles. You can see one thing and the next few chords make sense to you. You already know what they are. You don't have to remember 32 bars. You have to remember some main points, and then you use these connective chord progressions to get to them. That's when things start to open up. That's a completely different focus to if I say to somebody play a song and they go like this. Oh, no, I do know it. That's a completely different way of learning. You shouldn't just be using tunes to learn, of course. Learn the progressions in isolation and bring them to tunes. Use the tunes to solidify those progressions. There's really nothing about playing like that, beginning to end, beginning to end, beginning to end, that's going to give you any freedom. All it will give you is memory. Freeing up with music so it's different every time. Or, let's say, if you ask me to play any of those again, I don't even know what I did. And there's no part of playing beginning to end like a robot that's going to give you freedom to play something so it's not exactly the same each time. And if you're playing everything that's exactly the same all the time, that's okay, because there is a phase where you just have to learn a few tunes. But if you're learning those the wrong way and using either just reading or just memory without any language skills, then you won't be able to free up for voicings, movements, improvisation. endings, beginnings, transposing to a different key. That's another thing. Transposing to a different key isn't just in case a singer asks you to do it. It's so that you can learn the same language in a different part of the piano. And then let's say you learn Misty in the key of F. You've got a rule. Start on chord 1, 2, 5 to 4. Because B flat is 1, 2, 3, 4. And we play a 2-5 progression, C minor 7, F7, to get to it, B flat major. I won't go into those too much. I've got other videos, which I'll link below, where I talk about that stuff. But now I've got a rule. So I know what happens in Misty. Whether I'm in E flat or F doesn't make any difference. Okay, now, so let's say I play a different song that's in F. Nearness of You. That goes 1, 2, 5 to 4. So let's say I played Misty in E flat and I played Nearness of You in F. Bang, I've got a connection. The music makes sense to me because they have the same material. So you don't want to end up with 1,000 data points, but they're not connected. You want to end up with 1,000 data points that are connected and can propel you forward. That's the important thing. There is no part of watching YouTube videos about rootless voicings, about voicings with fourths and whatever, about 13ths with 9s on the top, about altered chords, about majors with 9s on them. There's no part of doing any of that that's going to teach you about what a jazz standard is, about how those progressions work, and more importantly, how to learn them and make them your own. Those things were stylistic. These things are linguistic and skill-based, and that's what you actually need. And I feel that there are only a few charlatans out there teaching jazz. I'd say most people are well-intentioned, but there's a difference between playing jazz and teaching jazz. And similarly, there's a difference between learning jazz and performing jazz. Learning jazz, most new students don't have a strategy other than just try to play a song again and again and again. Where what needs to be happening is, let's learn the progressions that go in songs, in tunes, so that we can play a load of tunes. There's never an enforcement of time, so they take as long as they want, practicing out of time, no metronome, no track, and therefore they take as long as they want for the bits they don't like, and they rush through the bits they do like. Whereas if you play with a track or with a metronome slowly enough for you to think through it, then you have a chance of actually improving and going, yeah, I don't really know that chord. Every time that chord comes up, I'm never there on time. But if there's a track, if there's something doing this for you, or a metronome, you will soon make yourself get to it in time, and then you'll improve. Then your progressions will improve. Your fluency will improve. Your time will improve. Your playing within a band setting will improve. That's important even if you're not going to play with a band. A solo jazz piano player, that's the hardest form of playing, is solo jazz piano. It's not the easiest form because you're not playing with other people. It's actually the opposite. So I get people to play with tracks very early on, and they make progress because of it. They get good because of it. They get solid, and they also get clear on which chords they don't really know as well as they thought. Otherwise, they come to lessons and say, I don't know what it is, but I can do this at home, but when you make me do it here, I can't do it. Yeah, of course, there's a little bit of nerves involved in that, but mainly it's because they don't use the tracks. It's a bit like learning to drive. You don't learn, well, you put your hands on the steering wheel, then no matter what happens, you start moving, and then if it's a gear shift, as we call them in the UK, you move from 1 to 2. You don't. You react to the traffic. You react to what you're seeing and what is safe. Jazz is the same thing. You don't just learn, do this, then do that, then do this, then do that, no matter what happens next. It's really important to practice in a way that keeps growing. You can't go from 0 to fluency just because you're following these principles, but you don't want to play for 5 years plus, which I see all the time, and still have no freedom. That doesn't seem very fair on you. So to summarize, the best things you could be doing if you're trying to get some freedom and fluency is pick easier tunes. Don't worry about whether you like the tune or not. Fall in love with the standards. That's another thing. People are trying to learn jazz from tunes that are written from 1960 and beyond because some of them may seem easier. But the principles are very different. It doesn't matter if you like Chick Corea or Herbie Hancock. Chick Corea knew how to play standards. He liked Bud Powell, for example. Same with Herbie Hancock. So the real language here can be learned by using the songs, the jazz standards. They make musical sense a lot more than some of the tunes that came later in terms of the chord progressions. I can't teach people to play from tunes that are written in the 60s and 70s without them learning standards. That's really, really important. The standards have all the nutrition in there for us. And be careful of the fake books, because sometimes there's a tune from 1922 on page 1 and 1985 on page 2. How are you ever going to learn a style like that, right? So to summarize, be working in a way that you're learning chord progressions. They are our bread and butter, the most important thing. And play in time. Play tunes that are easy enough for you. Know the chords in the key. Know the important progressions. Everything that I teach about that, I will link below. And of course, I teach it in a very organized way on Jazz Skills with tracks and things to play with as well. So everything's there for people who join. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope I gave you something to think about, and I wish you well getting fluent with jazz piano. It may seem hard work, but it's really fulfilling, so go for it. Bye for now.